Good morning, Fargo. My name is Tony Gehrig, Fargo City Commissioner. Today is March 10th, and I'm going to be reviewing the meeting from February 13th. This should hopefully be a pretty quick video. We have three major issues I'd like to speak about. One was the Tax Exempt Review Committee guidelines. Another one was a pilot for an apartment building, and the interaction with legislators. Beginning with the guidelines for the Tax Exempt Review Committee. As most of you have known, for many months, that committee has reviewed their guidelines for things like pilots, payment in lieu of taxes, and how we find out if we're going to give a company an exemption or not. I had a lot of input on this process. I tried to make my voice heard on this. I've asked for more restrictions to be put in place to make sure that the people or companies who are receiving the exemptions actually need the exemptions, which I think is pretty common sense for the majority of people in Fargo. And also just look at ways of being more effective and focused on the exemptions that we're giving. So the guidelines, during the meeting I asked for 5 or 6 amendments to be placed on the draft. All of them but one were denied. In a 3-2 vote, I made the motion to treat downtown Fargo like everywhere else in Fargo. That is to say that we cannot give an exemption for downtown that is bigger than we are allowed to give in any other place in Fargo. That was accepted. Again, I think that's pretty common sense. If we're going to say that we want growth in the city of Fargo, downtown is a part of the city of Fargo. So I want to treat downtown like other places. And I want other places in Fargo to be treated like downtown. So that was accepted. One thing that was not accepted that was a little bothersome for me was the but-for question. And if you haven't heard this before, the but-for question is simply this. Would this project happen but for the incentive? If we didn't give the incentive, would this project still happen? And as many of you know who have been paying any kind of attention to the exemptions we've been giving out, I've asked 5 or 6 companies, would you come to Fargo? Would you build in Fargo? Would you stay in Fargo and do this same project that you're coming to us asking for an incentive for if we didn't grant you the incentive? And all of these companies that I've asked this question to, with one exception, said, yes, we would do what we were going to do. FedEx comes to mind, BSE, Aldebaran, and many other companies have said, yes, we're going to do that. With or without the exemption, but of course the exemption helps. Well, yeah, if you pay less in taxes, that's always a good thing, right? So again, I don't blame these companies for asking for the exemption. I blame the government for offering them and then to grant them once they say, yeah, we're going to do it without it. So I asked that but-for question to be applied to all incentives and to always be asked, and that was denied. So I think that the residents of Fargo should be curious. Why would you deny that question? Are these incentives? Or are they giveaways? And I think that given that motion was denied, we now know that answer. Moving on to a specific pilot, it was just an apartment around the downtown area. I believe it was on First Avenue where this was suggested. It's just an apartment complex like any other. They asked for a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, which means they just don't pay taxes for a certain period of time in a 4-to-1 vote. That passed, and no but-for question was asked. Finally, was the interaction with the legislature. What I fondly call this as Lettergate. I sent a letter to many of the committees at the legislature, voicing my personal opinions on Renaissance zone exemptions, pilot exemptions, TIFs, and the rest. And I told them what you all know, how I feel about these things, that in many cases they're not needed, in many cases they're abused, in many cases we're spending money that we don't need to be spending. And we're charging all you taxpayers watching this to pay for these projects on top of what you usually pay for your taxes. You pay even more. Many people took exception to that. That's fine. I put it on our letterhead as a city commissioner. I have that right and that ability. Other commissioners have done the exact same thing. After that letter was sent that I sent, about a week later, a letter from a couple other commissioners was sent. And in that letter, they said they represent the city of Fargo, though we never had that vote. In my letter, I never said I represented the city of Fargo. Me and Steve Marquardt from Bismarck, a commissioner out there, said we represented ourselves, and this is our opinion. But anyway, the interactions were debated, and new guidelines have come out, and we're kind of moving on from there. So at this point, I have my own letterhead. At this point, I have the right, again, to write letters and express my opinion as a city commissioner. If you have questions about this or any other issues in the city, please feel free to call me, email me, and keep watching how your commissioners are spending your dollars. Thank you.